Greetings collectors and welcome to today's spooky episode. We've got an interesting show as we take a look back at an overlooked franchise of the 2000s. Today we're rediscovering the Blair Witch Trilogy for the PC. So to give you a quick introduction, the Blair Witch Project was a horror movie released in 1999. It was the movie that really kick-started the found footage genre. The movie reportedly had a budget of just $60,000 but delivered a gigantic $248 million gross box office in return. The movie is filmed completely on handheld camcorders and for the vast majority of the movie only features 3 on-screen characters. The 3 US students are in the process of investigating the legend of the Blair Witch in Burkittsville, Maryland as part of a documentary for a college project. I won't spoil the movie for you, but needless to say, the 3 students become lost in the woods, lots of screaming happens, and the stories of the Blair Witch weave their way into the narrative. For full disclosure, I'm a big fan of horror movies, and I took a trip to the cinema with my high school friends back in 1999 to see the Blair Witch Project. After so much hype, the film was a little underwhelming, to say the least. It's the type of film that leaves you with that nothing really happened quality. Having said that though, for what it is a good watch if you aren't prone to motion sickness and can suspend your belief that the footage is all genuine. After all, being lost in a supposedly haunted forest with no phone signal and creepy noises would be rather unnerving as an experience. So lots of you out there would have played many horror games, but many won't actually have ever heard of the Blair Witch Trilogy as a gaming experience, and I think that's probably not surprising, as these games tend to have been forgotten over time. And I think the second thing you're thinking there is, how on earth do you not just make 1 game, but 3 games out of the Blair Witch movie? Well, the answer is simple. You really have to milk the source material for all it's worth. It was clear that the hype machine was doing wonders for the franchise. VHS, DVDs, t-shirts, books, and spoof documentaries all clawed in cash on the back of the supposed legend. It was then that some thought games. A spooky game could really add to the piles of cash. One problem though. The movie plot itself doesn't really lend itself well to a game. A movie to game conversion would literally be walking around in circles in a half-dark screen whilst someone screams every few seconds. The second problem was that to rake in any cash, a game would have to be released in the very near future while the iron was hot. This is where opportunity knocked for the developers Terminal Reality. This team had already created a rather successful game for themselves called Nocturne. The game featured characters such as the Stranger and Svetlana Lupescu, attempting to retrieve a powerful artifact from a remote vampire-occupied castle in Germany. It's essentially a monster-killing puzzle game. The engine was complete, the textures and additional assets easy to build upon. It was a no-brainer that the first Blair Witch game, Rust in Par, would be made by the Terminal Reality studio. But what of the plot? Surely a monster-killing puzzle game is a mile away from 3 students lost in the woods. Well, yes, it really is. You play as Elspeth Doc Holliday, a member of the Spook House operation. Set in 1941, you're soon set up on a mission to investigate the happenings of Burkittsville, Maryland, and the case that a local Rust in Par has killed a group of the town's children. Unofficially, this is a direct sequel to Nocturne. The Stranger and Svetlana return as Spook House members, and there is no attempt to hide that this is from the same franchise. Where the Blair Witch element comes in is the backdrop to the games. Rust in Par is a story mentioned in the movie, as are The Legend of Coffin Rock and The Ellie Kedwood Tale. These mentionings in the early part of the movie serve as Heather's research into the local Blair Witch legend. At best, these provide a rather flimsy link to the actual games. It's clear that the Blair Witch connection was made with the sole attempt to improve sales with brand recognition. In my opinion, all 3 games could stand alone without the Blair Witch branding. When playing the games, it seems a little redundant to try and link this to a movie. However, it does serve as the purpose of linking 3 essentially unrelated games together. In its own way, this is a game marketing genius at its best. So, what do you get for your money? I'm looking here at the triple pack, although it is possible to buy all 3 individually. The game package comes with a standard card slipcase. Each of the games themselves are packaged in a standard DVD-sized case. The package quality is good here and the presentation suggests a true trilogy. Inside the cases are well-printed manuals and each of the game discs. What's really interesting here though is the developer listings. Terminal Reality, Human Head Studios and Ritual Entertainment. Yes, that's right, a trilogy released together, but by 3 different developers. As I mentioned earlier, the need to get these games out to maximise profits was essential. All 3 game licenses ran on the Nocturne engine and pumped out by the respective development teams. The more I look at this trilogy, the more I realise how many quick decisions must have been made to get these games out to market on time. Splitting the games over 3 developers was realistically the only way to get these games out to market, while they still had the benefit of the Blair Witch hype. As there are 3 games here, I will give a shortened review of each. Volume 1, Rust in Part, is where the trilogy is at its best. Although the game time is a little short, there is a story here. A real setup of an investigation, characters to drive the story forward through the narrative, and overall this is a decent game in my opinion. The game is very self-knowing by including Nocturne Stranger and Svetlana characters, and even set the initial stage in Spookhouse HQ.
Definitely a debt you don't need.
I was thinking same thing. Where's Justine? Away. She said sorry she could not stay, and be careful on your mission. I see you are traveling light, as usual. Yes, well, we mortals have to depend on our equipment. Right, stranger?
There's also an excellent Dale Cooper Twin Peaks reference.
This must be where pies go when they die.
The game suffers a little bit in presentation. The 640x480 will certainly bring back memories of gaming years gone past. The graphics engine itself appears a little broken at times. Clothes seem to blow around as if a hurricane is constantly raging. There's also the unintentional glitching as you find NPCs floating into walls, and your character occasionally spinning around in some cutscenes. The real killer though is the control system, and the developers knew it. Included by default are a variety of options to control your character. Really it's a case of pick your poison, as all revolve around the outdated tank controls or awkward mouse interaction. The voice acting is also dire in places. Here's a couple of my favourites.
Welcome to Burkittsville, ma'am.
I'd like a room, please.
Certainly. Will your husband be joining you?
I'm not married. The world is a dark place.
Who will protect the world from darkness?
We will.
After you.
I'm sounding a bit down on this game now, which is a little unfair. Overall I did enjoy playing this one, and I think it's worth a second look. As this is more of a channel focusing on collecting rather than in-depth gameplay reviews, I'll give you just a short overview of Volumes 2 and 3, The Legend of Coffin Rock and The Ellie Kedwood Tale. All 3 games are graphically very similar, using the same engine. However, I feel that the overall narrative and storytelling works far better in Rust in Par. Volumes 2 and 3 seem to venture further from the source material and much more into the Nocturne world. The Legend of Coffin Rock has some great atmosphere in the woods, but really didn't engage me much as a gamer past the first 30 minutes. Volume 3, The Ellie Kedwood Tale, strays even further into full-blown magic spells and mythology. Here's where I had an issue with the trilogy. It's one thing to rebrand Nocturne as a Blair Witch tie-in, but this ends up with a really confusing situations not really fitting into either franchise. After all, are we now to believe that this full-blown magic use is part of the same universe that the movie took place in? Personally, I think that the Blair Witch element should have been removed from these games, and these should have been officially released as the next Nocturne chapters. In terms of support to the movie, they really add little, if anything at all. It would be very easy to edit out the few mentions of the Blair Witch and have these games stand alone.
I will get you back to town, child.
Interestingly, I get the impression that the developers thought so too. After installing the games, you may notice that the executable game file is actually called Nocturne. If you're interested in the Blair Witch Trilogy, you may be interested to know how much this is going to cost you. Well, as you may expect, this one is very easy to pick up and very cheap. I paid just £4 near mint in box here in the UK. For the US, that's around about $7 at today's market prices. There are variants of this set, some include the DVD and others opting for 3 cardboard boxes. Either way, all versions of the game are very cheap and easy to pick up. So, for the low price point, is the Blair Witch Trilogy worth putting in your collection? Well, it's a yes and a no. If you have no love for the movie or nostalgia for slightly obscure horror games, then this is definitely not for you. If you are curious about the series though, I dare say that you can pick this one up for pennies, and it's worth the entry price. I can't see this set gaining any value over time. Volume 1 is well worth a playthrough, and I've seen some games a lot worse than parts 2 and 3. I think the set is best summed up by saying that the games are obviously outdated, have little to do with the movie, and offer little in the way of replay value. However, if it's a bit of slightly spooky retro horror you're after, then it's not going to cost you much to collect this one. So, have you played the Blair Witch Trilogy or Nocturne? Let me know in the comments below. It's always interesting to hear what you guys have to say about these games.
The world is a dark place.
Who will protect the world from darkness?
We will.
Hello again, I hope you enjoyed today's show and thank you for the view. Remember, you can always comment, like, subscribe and find us on the social media sites below. Happy collecting!